welcome to this episode of Culture of Paint. Today we're going to be chatting about what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. For our main segment, we're going to be having a chat with WIll Hahn about his rapid rise to becoming one of the hottest miniatures painters around at the minute. And we'll close out the show as usual, taking a look at what the hashtag PaintCultists have been up to. Our Culture of Paint's aimed at a mature audience, and we might use explicit language and discuss adult themes. Now let's talk about paint.
I don't know. You can see. I think you can see my hand.
Who was it playing the fucking bongos then?
Wasn't me.
Because if we're not careful, the chat's going to kick off again, and we're going to have to offer refunds for the listeners. Right, we're on. Hello, chat. How are you all doing in there? I'm Henry. Joining me as usual are Matt, Andy, out and Rich, and our special guest today, Will. How are we doing, chaps?
Bloody lovely.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And you're coming in from whereabouts, Will?
So, if you couldn't tell, I'm American. I'm from Baltimore, so I am just north of DC, Washington, DC. So that's East Coast, mid-Atlantic, right in the middle of the country.
Nice.
Like
but this isn't one of those. This isn't one of those horrible podcasts where you get the guest on and it's like 2 a.m. for them or whatever, or
no, we're good.
In the morning.
It should be good. Actually, it's great because we're behind you guys. we're behind you guys. So I'm like, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me.
Beautiful.
Like you guys are in beer mode. I'm still in coffee mode. So
it'd be worse if it was.
That's a whopping great coffee. Tell you what, we need to get you one of these bad boys, though, don't we?
Or is that just like a normal?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So 5 of us. There's going to be waffle. Let's crack on. What are the picks?
So first up is.
Oh, nice. Okay, so this is an account I came across 2 days ago. They've got a YouTube channel. Haven't watched it yet, but there's just tons of really cool looking dioramas. And obviously this one's amazing. It's called something like "Those Who Live in Ice Houses Shouldn't Throw Stones" or something like that. But there's quite a lot of like flame effect ones that the person's done. But yeah, it just I haven't had time to go and really explore them yet. So I'm looking forward to doing it in the next few weeks.
They've done a video on this one because they basically wanted to do like a fire diorama, and they saw the new Super Mario Brothers trailer, and there's like a scene with Bowser flaming the castle, and this is that scene.
Amazing, because there's another one on there. There's like a dragon, like a classic, dragon rearing up, burninating the villagers and stuff. It's it's just really, really cool. So yeah, go and check it out if you fancy it, because I'm pretty sure there's a ton of content there.
I'm going to fire that.
So,
that's great.
Real quick, at the risk of sounding stupid and me being the guest, I can't see the pics.
Okay, so
have you got?
I don't know.
We're going to send you a link in Skype, Will, which will be called Slide something or other. If you click on that, that'll be us seeing it live, which we definitely told Will before we came on air, because everything's very professional.
And I am 100% technologically inept.
Yeah, it's Will's fault.
A few of the chat are kicking in now. They're already subscribed to this account's channel and stuff. So
it's a good channel.
Yeah, nice.
Shame about
it was
Chris Pratt's voice of Super Mario, but there you go.
Oh yeah, I read about that. But anyway, that's the whole other.
Chris Pratt in Super Mario.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Let's move on. It's not open that. Right, what's up next?
Are you working, Will? Got it?
Like I said, I am technologically inept, and I'm pressing buttons and trying to get to the link that you sent me.
You got the chat open.
Chats. I'm clicking and it's not doing anything.
All right, well, just watch it live on YouTube, mate. You'll only be about a minute behind.
I think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, you'll be fine. We'll just describe it to you.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
but definitely go turn the volume down on
awesome.
that, though, bud, because we don't want to hear ourselves. No.
I did. And now I can see everybody talk shit about me in the chat.
Oh dear.
Look at that dumbass. Can't use Skype.
So,
are we all okay now?
Yeah.
What's coming up next?
Next up is Will's pick.
How big is
so
that?
Cool.
So this is this Steven Garcia thing you were talking about, right?
I think it's pretty awesome. So when I can't see it yet, but when I was looking at it and poking through, so I actually started tinkering a little bit on this model myself, and sometimes when you see a model, like, you get a certain vision. One of the things that struck me was this was so different from my vision, and it's just executed so well and balanced so well, especially with so many cold colors going through there. I just thought it was really, really interesting and really, really pretty awesome.
How big is it?
How big is it? Where's it from?
It's a 75.
Right.
It's a 75 millimeter. It's from Camaro. It's the new Hermes. It's really awesome, and I mean, Steve always smashes it, and he totally smashed it on this one.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
On the other side, there's like a galaxy reflection, so it goes really dark, and then there's all the stars, a bit like there is on the helmet, but there's loads more of it. It's pretty it's a pretty crazy turnaround. So, and I think it's its first official box art for Chimera, and I think he's looking to do more of them. So if you want some box art from Steve, I think he wants to hit him up.
I'd like to see him do more. And one of the other things that I thought was really interesting is, like, the first time I saw the unhelmeted head option, it just gave me definite Tau vibes. And for, like, not doing a Tau blue skin on that, it was I like it. I really like the choices and the decisions on there.
That's very cool.
Badass.
Lovely job. And as usual, we'll put all these accounts in the description so you guys can go and follow them if you're not already. Right, what's up next?
So next up is my pick.
Lovely.
It just could not pick it. I saw the whip the other week of just the back of his jacket, and I'm just like, that model is tiny. How has he done those lines?
Really tiny.
But,
like thumbnail tiny.
Yeah, it's miniature. But it's got some nice little moss for Andy, so that's cool. Nice mossy base.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good amount as well. This is what me and Matt were talking about earlier. This just sort of happy painting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's just can't not enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the best.
Well, I like Lord of the Rings now. So that's
you
fine.
do? Yeah.
I like the new series, but apparently the new series is terrible according to Lord of the Rings fans. But it's the first thing I've liked. So
it's
as long
good.
as you don't make any sweeping generalizations, we'll be fine.
They just need to get over it.
You say the moss thing. I do love it when people just properly like turf bases. None of these
my next one.
patches. None of this. Just get a nice bit of lawn on there.
It's the Shire. There's got to be a big nice green lawn.
Yeah, beautiful. And this is an old mini now as well, right? This must be
2001, 2002.
Yeah.
Holy
shit.
Like that.
Really, really, really old, yeah. Because it's cropped up often, hasn't it, in the pocket watch diorama type thing, which I know a few people have done.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely stuff. Nice pick, mate.
So next up,
Find your jacket like that.
Yeah.
This is mine.
Hello.
This is mine. I was struggling a bit to decide what to pick this week, and a few options. But I saw this, and I'm going to be brutally honest. I haven't seen any of these that I've liked as much as these. This color scheme is really cool. It's really different. I mean, yours
literally
are all
a couple of days ago. You messaged me saying how much you like mine. So thanks a lot for that, Rich.
And then I saw these ones though.
Mute Rich.
But they're painted very well, and I love the bases as well. There's a little. It says on the thing there's a step-by-step tutorial that they put on how to do those moon bases, and they're just really clever, really simple, and just really fun. And I've got a thing at the moment for like quite well or very well painted in this case, like little squads of stuff. Are just doing it for me. I'm still obsessed with Kill Team, and I just love the idea of you got less than 10 models most of the time. You can kind of throw a bit of effort at them and make them look really good. And they're just very very different to the ones that I've seen so far, and it's probably my favorite ones, so that's why I picked them.
Definitely hoping.
I love those bases. I love those bases.
It's nice seeing people, isn't it, lean into the whole moon men thing with these guys.
clangers.
Yeah.
I just really like the execution there.
Yeah, it's great.
The tutorial's really
and I love green
simple
too, so that gets a thumbs up for me.
It's kind of weird lights, Will.
So I think I'm gonna have to go turn them off. I think that there's a short somewhere in the house that started just doing
raving.
that on me the other day. No, my son's not hanging out over there just trying to get my attention or something. But yeah, leave it to me to totally muck up the podcast.
Don't worry, mate.
It's fine. It's settled.
A few people in the chat saying they're loving the glowing on the helmet. It is very nicely done, actually, isn't it?
So cool, yeah. I struggle with these models a little bit. Like, there's some that I've really liked and some that I've not liked that much. And out of the whole range, they're just the basic dudes are my favorite.
That's the key, mate. That's we've said it before, haven't we? Like, yeah. If you can get your main troop choice looking good.
I mean, that's kind of the only ones that I really like out of them all, to be honest. But I love the basic dudes. I'm hoping they come up for Kill Team, like you said. I hope they get their own White Dwarf supplement for it. I would imagine they probably will at some point soon. And when they do,
you think, or you think they'll just be in one of the upcoming boxes?
I don't think so. I think they'll get a White Dwarf. They'll get a White Dwarf set of rules, I think, at some point. I mean, they might do a box set with them, and you might get a whole new set of models for them. You know, its own thing. That would be very cool as well, to be honest, because there's so much scope with them because they've got such a varied. The fluff is so varied.
I am full in love with this range. And as you said, the background is great. There's tons of stuff they mentioned in the background that suggests, I think, a fairly sizable second wave in the not too distant future, I suspect.
Yep.
Hurry up! Get out of the way.
I could bang on about these guys for a long time, but we're not going to do that. So, so I get them all painted, then we can have a whole episode on it. Right. So the last
I won't be on that one.
Will be you.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know what it is, but it's mental. I love this account. They're amazing at painting faces, especially the eyes. Do a lot of larger scale stuff. The close up of this face is incredible. I'd love a commission of one of our busts or something like that from this person. But yeah, I just thought this was really cool. The close up's definitely better, like the close up of the face of the girl. But I thought there was loads of whips that I was absolutely loving, and then I just saw the whole thing with this lizard or whatever, and it's just insane. I don't even know what mini it is.
That thing you mentioned about certain painters doing it, where they'll paint different parts of the model to different levels of, I don't know what the right word is, but finish, quality, whatever. Is that what's happened here? Like, deliberately to try and draw you into like her face?
I don't know. I think it's just the materials, maybe. Right. Like, I guess it's just like, I know, some rock and wood, and it's fairly like not overly painted or whatever. But I don't know. I love all this stuff, and this is their latest thing. But yeah, check out the account.
Tell you the name of it, but it's in Japanese, and I can't read it.
Same here.
God damn it, Matt! You're a tech guy.
One of the things that I really like about this, and something that always impresses me about people who can paint really well with broken tones, is really the palette itself. That it's just, to me, it's still just, it's, of course the execution is amazing, but it's just such a really well balanced paint job, and doing that without leaning on like really bright colors or just in some place. It gives a certain vibe for me that I just think it's awesome. And the mastery and control of these more neutral tones is really something that it's something I respect a lot, because it is hard to do. I think people don't realize how hard it can be to do. And this is just executed just to a T.
What do you mean by broken tones, Will?
So when you start to move into like beyond tertiary colors, okay, you think of your primary colors, your secondary colors, your tertiary colors. We all understand that. But when you start to move beyond that into these more muddied tones, there's a lot more variables that you're working with. Like The analogy that I kind of use is sort of like working up against a wall. Like it could be via a really saturated color or a certain value, where you have a wall at a certain end and then you're only working in one direction. Whereas when you have these broken tones, there's a lot more ways to go. So there's a lot more opportunities to screw up and have something look off. So
is that
these
almost
grays,
like a newish painter would naturally work like that without realizing it? Is that what you're saying? But then for someone at the opposite end of the spectrum to then use all of those variety, but with with forethought and deliberately use them is quite different, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of paint ranges, especially like for newer painters. You're grabbing something off the shelf at the hobby store. There are a lot of those that are broken tones. That's why. Well, not necessarily why, but like pure pigments are definitely a thing because you're starting with the most saturated or purest form of it, and then you can move into those broken tones. So yes, a newer painter would very likely be using some of these broken tones, but without the intention. And then when you have the knowledge and the intention behind it and the understanding, then you can really make those colors sing. I think mastery of tonal grays is something that can be very difficult to do, very difficult to master. But once you do, you can make those other colors sing even more, or you can do a piece like this that has this other more somber emotion and really capture that ambience by understanding how to use those colors.
So in other words, there's no colors of purity, right? There's nothing with full chroma.
No, not at all. It's not even close. It's not even like it's close to being that. You're so really far removed from it in the palette on the whole piece.
Just grays. Everything's gray.
Best color.
Yeah. Nerd out on the color a little bit.
Well,
I'm all about it.
That is a cracking set to start us off with. Was there a meme? I don't think we even talked to. We haven't had a meme for ages, have we?
We weren't allowed the memes.
I'm down for it.
Couldn't use those ones. It'd be too mean.
Too many mean memes this week. No positive memes.
There's been I've seen a lot that the new guard tank has definitely generated plenty of internet fodder.
And I have no opinion on it whatsoever.
For pics, but I guess that's perfect, right? That's exactly what they want.
Yeah, it's great.
Get a Marmite thing out there and go with it. But there's some. I think the Ferrous Manus variant's been my favourite.
Yeah, that's amazing.
On that one. But yeah. But anyway, we haven't got a meme. So that means we can move straight on to our main segment, which really is a big chat with Will. Now, Will and Andy have struck up something of a bromance over the last 12 months or so. And it's like, we've got to get Will on, we've got to get Will on, we've got to talk to him, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay then, go for it. So, off you go.
Well, first of all, the reason we got to talk to Will is because he's got a workshop in England coming up. So
yes.
if you enjoy looking at Will's pieces today, and hopefully this will give you an opportunity to get to know him and see more of his work. But there are some tickets left for his workshop up at Element Games in Stockport, and the date is
it should be the 19th and 20th, I believe, of November. It's that Saturday, Sunday. It's either 19th or 20th or 20th, 21st, but I really think it's 19th, 20th. Yeah, 1920, November 1920.
All right, well, we'll stick the details for that down in the description, and we'll remember to chat about that later as well.
And we'll be painting a very, very awesome Call to Paint mini from the Deer Guard Kickstarter, the Woodsman.
There you go, reason enough to go. So
yeah. So we'll do we'll talk a little bit about ambience and color palette selection, almost like what we were just chatting about.
Kane in the chat, he's
on the last piece. Hey, nice. Looking forward to seeing, man. So we'll do the ambiance, then we'll touch on some NMM, we'll do some skin tones, some brushstrokes and textures. So it'll be fun.
All the good stuff. Well, I remember kind of, for me, my point of view, you kind of burst onto the scene because I hadn't seen any of your stuff before. And then suddenly it was like, bam, oh, there's some really good stuff. So it's probably different from your point of view because you probably did some not so great paint jobs before the great ones.
Oh, I've got plenty.
But the
Just
first
keep
miniature,
scrolling to the beginning. Scroll to the beginning of my Instagram.
that's true. I should have done that myself. But the first miniature I saw from yours was the Oni, which is from Sergio Calvo's Kickstarter. If you got the slide for that one, Matt. Yeah, so this was the first mini I ever saw of yours. And I think, to be honest, it was a repost from Sergio saying one of my students has painted this. And I thought, well, it's better than yours, to be honest. So I was like, this is better than the box art. But yeah, I was pretty blown away by the freehand on the wrist guards because you've got non-metallic metal, freehand running through that and all that stuff. And I was like, just from that bit, you're like, okay, yeah, this guy knows what's going on. And then since seeing that piece, it feels like you've kind of gone from strength to strength. And there's a lot of stuff, even though I've met you a few times, I don't actually really know about your sort of painting career. And it's easy to kind of.
We must have drank too much in Vegas and Adepticon that you just don't remember.
Did you tell me?
No. I don't know. We've talked so much, but
don't take it personally, Will. It doesn't.
No, it's good. Hey, I'm
remember anything.
I'm over here blushing. My bromance buddy just giving me all these compliments. This was a super fun piece. I think I was definitely kind of. I mean, I'd done some decent-ish paint jobs, kind of coming up to this, but one of the things I've always tried to do is when I go from piece to piece, you touched on going strength to strength, is to kind of throw myself into the deep end or constantly work in areas that I was uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're learning. Like if you're constantly doing the same thing, you're just going to get really good at the same thing and you're not really going to branch out. So this was, I think I painted this for Headbanger. I really kind of got into the moving from gaming into display painting during COVID, and of course all of the shows weren't going. At the beginning, I had kind of gotten my feet wet into it and was moving in that direction pre-COVID. But once it hit, I'm not going to call it the distraction of gaming, kind of went away. I mean, all the gaming stores were closed. Everybody was quarantining. I couldn't get games in with my buddies anymore. So it's like, well, I'm not going to spend all this time painting an army or something new that I'm not going to be able to use. So, all right, let me try my hand at some of these, busts or large scale figs or painting to paint. Yeah, because I've always been a painter. Like even like my old armies and stuff, I always, took it seriously. I was never about like, I'm just going to slap paint on it and throw it on the table. Like painting for me was just as much of a part of, the gaming aspect. And this just kind of gave me the opportunity to really go full force into the painting. So without there being any local shows, or really Nova was the big one that I had wanted to go back to. Headbanger was happening about the same time. So I said, you know what, I'm going to make this diorama and see what I can really do. And really kind of push myself in a lot of ways. So from the base is all scratch built. Doing the, I think this was probably the first model I did that Trompe-l'oeil freehand, the NMM freehand, to make it look like it's sculpted when it's not. It's just paint. And that's something that I love doing. It's just so fun to use only paint to make a detail look sculpted.
That was what stood out to me, was that one, like just that wrist guard. When I'd never heard of you before, I was like, okay, that's a lot of hard shit in a very small space. But I'm quite fascinated that I didn't even know you really were into gaming before. So, like, what year did you sort of start gaming and painting? And then you said you really switched because COVID made you focus. But how many years had you done the hobby before really going for display painting?
So I'm a classic tale of in and out. I started when I was much younger. Warhammer Fantasy 5th edition, that old Lizardmen versus Bretonnians box.
Ah, same.
Yeah.
Yes, Henry and I are well into that.
So that's the same thing. I split the box with my brother. I took the lizards. I gave him the Bretonnians because I didn't want to paint all that heraldry. Plus, lizards are just awesome. And look at that face. But yeah, so I used to play with my brother. I had a friend group, when I was, in I guess it was middle school-ish era, that I used to play with. And then as I got older, that girls and gasoline syndrome hits. So I started
girls and gasoline. I've never
girls
heard
and gasoline. That's what we used to call it. So I was actually I'm an Eagle Scout too.
Birds and cars.
Birds and cars. But yeah, girls and gasoline was the saying. So I was an Eagle Scout. They used to say that in our scout troop, because around that age of like 15-ish, that's when everybody drops off, because it's like, I'm not interested in this anymore. I'm after the girls, the cars, the parties on the weekends, or playing sports or whatever. And I dropped it. And then I think I got into it again, out of it again, but that's less important to the story. And I think it was probably about 2017 was when I was I was diagnosed earlier, but 2017 was when it got really bad with chronic Lyme disease. So I still have chronic Lyme disease, but I had a really difficult case that pretty much sidelined me from everything. So one of my other hobbies was hunting and fishing, and I couldn't physically do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do, like go throw 100 pounds of duck decoys on my back and hike 5 miles into a marsh in the middle of January. It's like that's not happening. So yeah, I was pretty much bound to a couch for a minimum of 6 hours a day while on an IV antibiotic drip. And I just got tired of just watching Netflix and not doing anything. And I don't know why it popped into my head, but I thought about Warhammer that I used to play as a kid. The old U.S. headquarters used to be in Glen Burnie, Maryland, which is just it's almost a suburb of Baltimore. It's really close by. And I looked it up to see if it was still there. It wasn't, but I had a GW store even closer. And I popped in. The manager became a friend of mine, was a super friendly dude, and I ended up picking up some models and started painting armies and building armies.
What mini? What was your first mini back?
First mini back?
Getting back into
some Beastmen, I think. Some Beastmen. I actually started painting some Beastmen that I had from one of my last stints. Some old metal Beastmen. But I started doing that, and then I think with the first full army back was either Tzeentch or Beastclaw Raiders. I started back into the AOS because I came from a Warhammer Fantasy background. I had a little bit of 40K, but Warhammer Fantasy Battles was definitely my jam. And now if I do play, it's 40K or really Kill Team.
So really, 2017 then was when you got back in. So because what I was trying to work out is like, how long did it take you to get to this level? And I think you've got better since Oni, but this piece was like a real landmark.
Honestly, I don't know. You've seen Oni, and I think you and I actually sat together, and I ripped my own piece apart. You and I were sitting at LVO, and I went through all these things that I would do differently, and all the things that weren't finished well enough. And there's a lot of them. I still think like this is still a really special piece for me. I think it is kind of that like breakout piece where people started to kind of notice. One of my favorite things about this is like kind of the story. So it's supposed to basically be a journal entry, and all the slips of paper at the bottom are entries of this explorer as he's going on this expedition. And then the Oni is supposed to be the last entry, which is the last thing he sees before he dies. So that's the context. I didn't twig that
because I didn't read it.
No, that's okay. I wouldn't blame you. You'd have to like lift the pieces up and everything. So it's just this extra element. I think the piece stands on its own as it is, but that's just something extra that I kind of added on top, and I thought that was fun to do.
That is cool. But yeah, so really only took you had a little bit of experience, but 3 years to get to like this sort of level, which is kind of mind blowing. I think that's something we talk about all the time. Is that people get good quick, and I think you're definitely one of the best painters in America now for sure. And it's just kind of crazy that you could do that in a few years. So what was like, because we were all painting before 2017, so we kind of saw the rise of tutorials. What was it like when you're like, right, I'm going to get really good now? Did you dive in, and was there loads of stuff? Like, how did you do it basically so fast?
So I think with the skill progression, like practice is huge. You have to actually sit down and do it. Like it's equal parts like practice, patience, getting the knowledge, and then applying it. You know what I mean? Like you have to do all those things. You're not going to sit down and watch a video. You're not going to watch a video, then sit down and all of a sudden paint it out. You know, you need that tactile experience as well. So one of the things that I did is with the pandemic happening, it gave me a lot of time to paint and practice. Before the pandemic, when I was really kind of exposed more to some of the display painting, was the previous Nova. I got to see stuff from Eric Swinson and Sam Lenz, Matt DiPietro was there, like, a lot of really good American artists. And it kind of opened my eyes. And that was one of the things that sort of pushed me into the direction before I was even on lockdown. I took a bunch of classes there from Eric, from Matt, from some other guys, and I realized how much I didn't know, and I became really hungry for that knowledge that I could then go home and apply. So lockdown hits, and I realized, okay, I can't go to these conventions and these workshops. I turned to online coaching. YouTube tutorials were always a thing, but what happens is as you level up, resources out there start to get smaller and smaller. The pool of people or tutorials that you can learn from, like as you get better, just there's less of the best out there. You have to constantly level up. So I started on YouTube and all these other free tutorials, and then I started doing different Patreons. And one of the things that I wanted to do was learn from as many different artists as possible, because everybody thinks differently. Everybody applies differently, applies things differently. Everyone has a different thought process with how they build. And I think it's really important to expose yourself to as many of those as possible, because what works for one guy might not work for you, So like we talked about, the Oni, I painted this while I was a student of Sergio's. I learned a lot from Sergio, but there's ways that he does certain things that I don't personally agree with, or that doesn't work for me. It works fantastically for him, but it doesn't quite work for me. So I started, almost like stepping stones. Like I think the first one was I signed with Aaron Lovejoy. He was like my first coach. He's another American painter through Miniature Monthly, him and Matt DiPietro. And then I added, I don't remember if I added Sergio next or Richard Gray as well. So I started doing some coaches with Rich, because their styles are so diametrically opposed. It was so great to get input from Richard on one end and Sergio on the other. And then
I'd say they're fairly similar, actually. That's interesting. Yeah, I think they're quite similar.
There's a lot of things about it that I think they're very, very differently. But the next step for me was signing up with Alfonso and Miniature Art Academy. And from the minute I met with Alfonso and talked to him, we just clicked. And he's got a very different, very not just artsy mindset, but very open, high energy, etc. So it's talking about being the opposite of, I think as I really started to progress, the pieces that I really like, I was working both with Alfonso and Richard, and just the way that they approach things are so different. So I loved hearing these very different opinions, but then I knew when they agreed on something, that okay, that is what I really need to be doing. So that's kind of how I progressed from the information standpoint. From the practical standpoint, there's not much else than just to keep painting. Sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes you're throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. And then when it does, you remember that technique. Like one of my favorite quotes from my grandfather growing up was, "You learn the right thing to do by fucking up. You learn the right thing to do by making mistakes. A mistake can be just as valuable as a success."
Yeah.
And then there's happy accidents too. Remember what you did on the happy accident. You're like, oh, I can do that again and use it in this other application and be intentional with this effect to recreate something else.
That's awesome, man. So basically you just went all in and try to learn from as many people as you can. So what you're saying is you should sign up to the Cult of Paint Patreon, and that's how you'll get really, really good. And there's other Patreons too, but I think we should talk about another piece.
I've watched plenty of Cult of Paint videos. I've watched plenty of Cult of Paint videos.
There you go.
That's why
that's how Will got so great. There you go. You heard it here first. We got another picture, Matt. This was before, wasn't it? Was this a piece before Oni?
This is a Space Wolf bust that we're talking.
That was
about
after.
Now.
That was after.
That was after. That was after. I really enjoyed painting that bust. That was a fun one. That's by Ivan Mata. I was lucky enough to have him give me a copy of that. I painted it for a Figure Mentors article talking about textures and brush strokes. It was just really fun to paint. I actually resculpted the mustache and the beard on it just to kind of fill it out a little bit. And you can see more of that that trompe-l'oeil NMM freehand. Did it in more than a few places.
Freehand with light going through it is it's impressive. Like that axe head's probably my favorite part, to be honest.
I don't blame.
But it just kind of shows off, your skill that stood out to me is, if you can do like NMM with light running through it, there's a lot of different things going on it. And you can probably do most things if you can do that, I'd imagine. So if you can do non-metallics and a detail like that.
So it's about that knowledge base and just kind of understanding not only the light and the color and the painting, but I mean physics and how to make something convincing. It doesn't always have to be physically accurate as long as it's convincing,
That's true. Yeah.
So just understanding how light and volumes sort of work, then you can then create your own light and volumes and basically sculpt with paint. And that just, as a painter, that just gives you so many more options. And I think that's one of the reasons that I kind of started to do this. And I mean, it's whenever you're texturing or doing anything like that, in a way, you're doing the same thing. I mean, the analogy that I give is that I'm sure everybody here listening to this podcast has painted scratches or chips on paint on their models, on a 40K tank or something. You do the black line with a light line underneath of it. That is trompe-l'oeil in an extremely simple sense. And that's basically what I'm doing, but then I'm making complex shapes and volumes and applying non-metallic principles. And that's it. Simple.
Easy. When you know how. When you go on Will's class, then it's easy.
It's just a quick question. Sorry, guys, before we move on. From the chat, Will. Christian's just asking back to what you were talking about, online coaching and whatnot. He's saying, how often each month did you do online training sessions? Or, online coaching?
Once a month. I would do once a month. Sometimes, but it could be more often than that because I had overlap with some of the coaches. So it could be twice a month, but one with one coach and then one with another. And it's also nice because that holds you accountable too. That's another bonus to those online coaching is because you're basically paying for a service. If you slack off and you haven't done anything, you're wasting your money. Like I'd almost want to have a new project every single time that I had a session.
That's quick. That's way too quick. One a month. That's some rich numbers there. But no, it's great, this bust. It's super impressive. And it's obviously it's a smooth miniature, but the amount of texture on every single part is pretty crazy. So that's super cool. And I
actually think my favorite part of it, I don't know if you took the picture, was the the freehand on the other shoulder pad, the paintwork, the wolf head. That one took me a lot of trial and error. I don't think I ever posted all the bad attempts, but it was there were a lot of them. But at the end of the day, I think it turned out really, really well.
Hell yeah, man!
Go ahead.
Let's look at another one, Matt. Because we got a few. Yeah, we got a few. Now you remember this one, Henry, Rich, and Matt. Mm-hmm. This is pretty. This was a crazy one. Yeah, this is when we first featured you, I think, as a.
I think so.
Might be, yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I think why it stands out for me is because it's like white light, and everyone does OSL orange, green, like, you know, bright colors. And so, yeah, I think that's why it stood out to me, because it's just almost pure white light, you know, really, really cool.
This was fun to paint and a very interesting experience.
It was an exercise.
It was an exercise, and I learned something during this. One specific thing, most importantly, and that is why nobody ever paints white OSL. Because it really doesn't work in hand. I painted this.
My next question.
It doesn't, like, I mean, you pick it up and you look at it, right? And the effect is there. It's obvious, but it doesn't have the same power. The problem with white is it has zero luminosity. It has no power in the color. It's the highest value range, but if you put that next, like pure white next to a fluorescent orange, like, or really yellow, that's going to overpower the white drastically. And it has properties in those bright colors have properties in the physical world that can make OSL convincing. Personally, I don't really like OSL on miniatures in hand. I think it's a technique that's vastly better for pictures or box arts or something. And this model specifically, I painted 4 pictures for Clay Project with that intention in mind. I wanted to do something different, but because I knew that this was going to be primarily displayed in pictures, I made a lot of different decisions, and I approached it differently to a model that I would take to a show.
So that's very interesting, right? That touches on something we bring up regularly, is this idea of miniatures and art, all the rest of it. But to say that you've almost deliberately painted it to be viewed 2D, you know, on the screen, but you've chosen a canvas that is in fact 3D.
Yeah.
And that's very cool. I like that a lot.
What does it look like with a white background in a photo?
Terrible. It does not work at all. It does not work at all. No, it doesn't. It has to be black, and that's just, you know, understanding certain color relationships.
But that's taking it. That really is taking minis painting quite far, though. That whole idea. Yeah, that's really interesting. That's the first time I've heard someone doing it. I know plenty of people that are aware that their work looks better in picture than in hand, and perhaps shoot and enhance the work to look good, like on the screen, whatever, right? But perhaps not necessarily honestly, but to very blatantly come out and say, no, this was full painted with this intention.
Yeah, there's a reason
it's just really cool, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll be honest about it. Like, there are a lot of models that I've got that the pictures don't do them justice. You know, that I think that they display way better in hand and in person. And I will freely admit that, yes, this piece is painted for pictures, and there's a reason that nobody has ever seen it at a show, because personally, I do not like it in hand. I think that it was really fun kind of painting the shadows, like the hand going down there, and, you know, doing some of these things from multiple viewing angles. And it's definitely it was a learning experience. And I spoke about painting things outside of your comfort zone. And there were a lot of things that I did here that were outside of my comfort zone. So I learned a lot on this model, and it's special to me because of that, but you guys will never see it at a show because in hand it looks like crap.
Would the piece work Would it be one of those pieces where if you put backdrop on it that was black,
Yeah,
to kind
plain
of
black.
force you to only look at it in one direction? Or did you think
Yes
it would
and no. No, yes and no, because even if you paint something pure black, ambient light will change that.
Mess up your
blackness.
view, right? Yeah.
Okay, so the only way like that I've ever gotten close to that is on a piece that we'll talk about later with Scarlet, and I can talk about how I did that. But because the light source is emanating from the center, the top of the head's going to be in shadow. I take that to any normal room and I'm going to have ambient light or light from a display cabinet casting on that. And that's no longer going to be anywhere close to the black that you need to reasonably give this effect.
So you need to build a box
work.
around it, like with
Yes.
Vanta Black or one of those graphene things.
Put it in a cube. Put it in a cube.
Pretty much. And talking about how things work or don't work, like Oni we just talked about. That model does not work without that base. The focus is completely off. The gauntlets totally overpower the skin, where I'd want the focus to be on the chest and on the face of a model. It's the most important part on almost any model that you paint, like face, hands, weapon. It only works because it's in a field of green. And that field of green basically tones down the luminosity and power in the non-metallics. So the red, the contrasted color, this dot, becomes the main focal point, and it screams focus in that field. But I've got pictures of it without the background, and it's like, what? This does not look right. It just, you stare right at his belly.
I still think the freehand looks quite nice, mate. So
I do like that freehand.
Doing yourself a disservice there.
I think color stuff.
I think the most important thing I got out of that is something I nearly did a post on it last week, but I just couldn't be bothered to type a lot of words. But it's just about honesty in paint jobs, and I think it's really refreshing to just be honest and be like, yeah, this looks great in the photo, but it doesn't look as good in hand because of these reasons. But also that's okay, because one thing that annoys me is I hear people going, well, that looks crap in real life. And it's like, well, yeah, if it's in a cabinet with a nasty light on the wrong side, then it's not that person's fault, right? And it's right. Okay for it to look different in real life, because you're not photoshopping or doing anything like that. Mm-hmm. But if you just set it up nicely with a photo, that's a different thing. And it's just part of miniature painting, especially if you paint in an illustrative style, right? Mm-hmm. Then maybe there are some angles that aren't optimal, and that's fine. So but I think people need to be honest about it, right?
Right. It's insanely difficult. I mean, especially, with non-metallics, like you will have angles that don't work. Like you can't paint an effect that is based on viewing angle and then have an infinite viewing angle. Like there's no way to do that. Right. And it is fine because anything else basically becomes an impossibility. The better you get, the more viewing angles you can add, but there can never be an infinite with a technique like that. If there is an infinite, then you are compromising on the effect that you're giving, if that makes sense. Like there's always going to be a give and take in everything. And that's where whenever you paint a model, your decision making and where you choose to put value and color and just the composition, all of that is just as important as your brushwork in the end, because all of those little details add up to make a sum, greater than its parts.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. I think we could talk about loads of that stuff in a whole episode. Should we do another model? Because I'm worried we won't get... Here we go. This is the money shot. Here we go. So this is probably your best ever piece, right?
It's got to be Scarlet, because I'm waiting for the thing to update.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, she is. I think she is. She's definitely my favorite. And go figure, this is another one that I painted for Ed Banger, I think.
Did this win, or what has this won?
It won fan favorite. So what it has? It's won a few pieces. So it won fan favorite, in Headbanger. I think it was a bronze in the Masters Open that year. Then it won. It was part of my display for Best of Fantasy at MFCA, but there were a few other models there. Then it won just now at the Nova, most recent. Best Large, Best in Show, and Fan Favorite.
Wow.
So you've done all right with this one.
And a gold at and Masters Large at LVO. Those are all the shows that she's been to.
Wow, let's see how she does at Monte Sansevino in 2 weeks, because that's going to be interesting, and then we can have some controversial conversations. It's awesome. I think we
go home. Go back.
I think we featured this before, right? We must have had this as a mini of the week. It's
we did.
It's just right, like it's not a simple paint job, but it's a simple idea, right? Red, white, and it's just amazing. And I think, and this goes actually back to what irritates me when people say, "Oh, it doesn't work from every angle." Who cares? Look how good this angle is. Like, if you hold it upside down, it doesn't look perfect. Why does that matter?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Andy, because you've seen this in person. I mean, the way that the base and the plinth is shaped, like it is supposed to work kind of on that. What's 360 divided by 3? So 120. Basically, the front 120 degrees, right? Not full 180, but that kind of front. But the plinth is square in the back. It's got black sides, so that is not a viewing angle. The front of the plinth is rounded. I actually had props to Eric Swinson for helping me cut that the piece that I needed to help me make that plinth, because I did paint this 4 months after I cut my finger off.
Well, should we go into that? Because that was obviously one of the questions. Is you for a while were fingerless?
I was fingerless. So, power tool safety, kids.
You didn't want to cut your own plinth, because what did you do?
I did. I was cutting a plinth. Oh, for MPO. You guys have been into Painting Open. I was trying to cut a plinth for a last minute entry for me. Like, I've got like 2 weeks. I can, do a small scale.
Don't rush, kids. Never rush.
Don't rush. And I went outside and I did not do everything safely the way that I should have. Took some shortcuts and
safety
it bit
squints.
me in the ass, the finger. So the router bit caught the plinth and sucked my hand in, and I had what they call a near amputation on my index finger of my right hand, which is my painting hand. So it shattered the bone. Took a full half-inch out because it was a half-inch router bit. Just turned into just dust. Severed both extensor and flexor tendons and the nerves on the pinky side of that finger. So I had a little bit of skin holding the tip of the finger on, and then it ran up my middle finger here. Got lucky because I missed the tendon on the bottom, the nerve on the right, and then my thumb as well. You guys might be able to see the wonky thumbnail that I have now, because that's where the blade ran straight through here and did the same thing on my thumb. But took several months for the full recovery. I think like I said, this was like in August, and I did it in like the last day in April, I think it was. But 2 weeks after the accident happened was as soon as I had fingers free. So I think these two were basically splinted together after 2 weeks. I started painting again because I was terrified, to be honest with you. The first thing that went through my head when I did it wasn't, oh, fuck, I cut my finger off, was, shit, how am I going to paint again? And I felt like I was in a really good place. Like there were a lot of things that I was struggling with that really started to click for me. And I was just terrified of losing my progress and what would happen. So literally as soon as I could move my hands, I went and I started painting again. I didn't want to lose it. And that first session, I was able to sit for maybe about 30 minutes. until it hurt too bad. And I must have dropped my brush about 60 times. And just every single day I sat down and kept doing it until I could hold the brush longer. I started using other brush strokes because my brush stroke that I had before it was gone. Yeah. So I mean, I was almost holding it like because these were splinted together. So I was basically kind of holding it like this. And then I was doing stipples or other different types of strokes that I wouldn't normally be able to do. And to this day, I can't paint like for freehand. I still have kind of a tough time because it takes a lot. I don't have a long, smooth stroke anymore. Like my front finger, it doesn't bend the way and articulate the way that it should. Like I used to keep my finger almost like this and be able to come straight back for a long, smooth stroke to make a smooth, unbroken line. And now I have to kind of string smaller marks together to make it in. It's about finding a workaround. And I was forced to find a lot of workarounds in order to do certain things. So, you make I don't know. I don't know what the saying is. Yeah, make lemonade.
So how did they repair your finger? How did they repair your finger? Did they replace bone or?
So I'm very, very lucky that one of the best hand clinics, if not the US, the world, is like 30 minutes away from me. So I just kind of actually went to the hospital, the local one. After it happened, I made my wife drive me because I didn't want to pay for an ambulance. My insurance sucks. But I was there for like 2 or 3 hours. They're like, yeah, we can't help you here. Your damage is too extensive. So you've got to go up to Union Memorial. And I did. And I had an amazing hand surgeon there that reconstructed it. They did a nerve graft. They repaired my tendons. The tendon repair was pretty much straightforward. I had 3 pins running through, and I had I guess it was a 6 or 7 hour surgery where they reconstructed the finger. And
6 hour surgery, shit.
I don't know. I was asleep. I was knocked out, man.
It's like sculpting when you can't mess up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. So and it was unlucky, but at the same time, like I was lucky in a lot of ways that it was only the one finger. It wasn't my thumb, because if it was my thumb, then I really would have been screwed.
Now you get Eric to do your plinths for you, so
yeah,
he takes
it's that one. I'm just or I find a workaround. So, there's other tools that I don't have a problem using that are safer. I don't need to be using a router ever.
Just get Taro to make it for you, mate. Yeah. Come on, TaroModelMaker.com.
I know. Well, James does awesome stuff, and there have been a couple times I've looked at it. So my problem is that I can never get the size right on the plinth that I want. So I think that I have the right size and everything's going to work. Like I'll take the measurements and then I'll put it all together. I'm like, no, this doesn't work. So I have to take it and I have to cut it or rebuild it or whatever. So I'll make a lot of my own plinths because it gives me more control. Plus, there's the whole shipping thing. If I go make it in my garage, it's right there, and then I don't have to wait. I'm an impatient person.
So did this piece, Scarlet, did you paint that after the accident?
Yes.
Wow. And
it was literally the summer following, but like 4 months.
There you go.
I finished this in August. The accident was April 30th. So wait, May, June, July, August. Yeah, finished it at the end of August.
That's super impressive. So how did you feel? How did you feel after doing your best piece after that accident?
I felt great. I felt like I was, back on it. It was very rewarding. Whenever you do something like this and you put the work in, the reward is that much sweeter. And it's about, sitting down and doing the work, I think. I had some saying that I was just going to say, and now I forgot it.
Well, I think so we haven't got loads left, so I'd love to talk about your Golden Demon piece, as you did your Golden Demon debut just this year. So do you want to pull that one up, Matt?
Yes, I did. Before we get on this piece, one last thing. We talked about that pure black and I said I would touch on it. So how I did the pure black in the back was I did use the black 3.0. I did a curved piece of plastic card. You can't have straight, because if you have the curve, it works better to deflect the light from other angles. And then it's also recessed. So the marble and the base, which is entirely wood, plastic card, and milliput, scratch built, is probably about this deep, and it is recessed inward, so it creates a natural shadow and sort of protects it over, away from the ambient light. So you get that sort of black hole effect. Even it still works even in person.
How did you find the black 3.0? Was it like painted on or airbrushed or?
Airbrush. That's also the key. I airbrushed it instead of doing a traditional brush. I found that an airbrush works better. So I found that getting a matte finish is always better through an airbrush. The Games Workshop varnish, it's like whatever the one that their matte varnish is supposed to be. Like if you paint it on with a traditional brush, it's very satin. It's really not matte. But if you airbrush it, it becomes more matte.
Nice.
That is very clever. That is black. Well, I think I made you do a GD entry. I can't remember. Was I like, get on with it?
Yes, you were. I remember we were chatting a little bit before it happened. You were finishing that like amazing diorama, and you like blew through it at a ridiculous pace. This
Didn't
one,
feel like it.
it's similar for me. Like I didn't even start this. I didn't even start the build till like it was March. Like it took me. I was painting in my hotel room at Adepticon. I know that's kind of become a joke, like me going to Adepticon and painting in my room.
Wasn't like 5 minutes before the entry closed, you entered it.
And
yeah,
Steve, you and Steve.
Steve was last. Steve was actually behind me. So the plinth was still wet. So I thought I had a good amount of time, and then I went and I peeled the masking tape off of the plinth, and it just pulled up all of the paint on the plinth, and I'm like less than 30 minutes to deadline, and I'm like, shit. So I repaired that really fast, like literally the varnish was like still wet, and I just popped it in my case, ran over 5 minutes to go, and then I started freaking out because I thought that it was I had used like the wrong varnish or whatever on the model, and I was looking at it in the case, and I'm like, looks terrible. Like, oh my God, I totally ruined it. Blah, 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 blah. And I was bitching about it for like a day and a half until Andy fed me some beer on Saturday night. And then come to find out it wasn't just me, because everybody's models looked kind of rough in that case, going back to what we talked about with the lighting.
Daylight behind it.
Daylight behind it. Everybody's models looked rough. So once I got it back and like it wasn't in the case, I'm like, oh, looks fine. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm all right. But yeah, this was a fun one to do. I normally don't do a lot of like kit batching and stuff like that. But I'm sure all you guys are familiar with the Morven Vol kit. And you can kind of see where all the little bits and a lot of little changes I made to things. There are some things that are just a bunch of green stuff. The shield is a Stormcast shield, so I could do some freehand on it instead of having to paint like the scroll work, which I just didn't particularly like. And then the that Trumploy freehand. This time it wasn't NMM, it was cloth, but the that dress, the barding that she has in the red, I thought that was a great thing
lovely
to do.
Quilted.
That's the best bit in
thing.
it.
Yeah, it's easily the coolest part, isn't it?
I think that's my favorite part of the model.
Yeah.
Like I actually personally I don't like painting. I hate NMM gold because I'm so critical of myself. I never feel like that it's basically perfect. And there are some areas on this model that I actually did feel really good about. Yeah, I still think the quilting on it's the best. But I finally got my childhood dream of a golden demon. Well, not quite gold, it's silver, but gold.
Well, I think that kind of brings me on to my final question, which is you've basically dominated some US shows. I think you won every single award there is at Nova, so you got to chill on that one.
Almost, yeah. I think I'm going to give Nova a break. I was 4 out of 6 categories, so each category that I entered, because I did not enter vehicle or squad. I don't like painting squads. Unless I'm gaming with them. But I actually I take it back. I did enter this in vehicle because Golden Demon told me this was vehicle and not large. And then Eric, who is the head judge, he was like, this isn't a vehicle. This is going into single because this is a single miniature. So he switched it, and I ended up getting best single, best bust, best dio, best large scale fig, best in show, and fan favorite.
That is not bad.
No,
so how are you feeling about going to Monte San Sabino, which will be your first European show, but also, I'd love to ask how you feel going to it, and then we'll have to ask you how you feel after, because I think Monte's very different when you're there to like how people talk about it, because people put on a pedestal, rightly so, because it's a massive prestigious show, but it's just in a little town, in a little castle. It's tiny. It's super different. So I really want to know, what you're thinking before, what your expectations are, and if you're feeling nervous, and then we'll definitely ask you how you feel after, and it'll be good to compare those answers.
We'll have to do a during as well.
I am excited. What?
We have to do a during interview while we're there.
During. Cool. Let's do it. I am excited, but also nervous. I do know that it is a different class of show. The concentration of talent is we've got some great painters in the U.S., but the concentration of talent, I think, is definitely greater in Europe. So knowing who's going to be there, just hearing about the prestige of the show. Like I said, I'm nervous. I'm nervous to see how my work will stack up, but I'm also excited to see my painting world friends that I haven't been able to meet in person yet. People from whose work I admire from every country over there, the world over. That's the big thing. Expectations are low. My expectations are very low. I did not finish. I was unable to. I had a really special project that I had planned for Monte, but with work and life. So, for anybody out there that doesn't know, painting is not my main job. This is my hobby. I do classes as sort of like a hobby job. But my family is in the seafood industry here in Baltimore. Go figure. That's such a Chesapeake Bay thing to do. But being in that industry, it can be very demanding. I have 2 kids, aged 2 and 6, and just kind of juggling everything. My wife works full time in a family business as well. She owns her company, so it's a demanding life, and I just didn't have the time to invest into that project that I felt like it deserved. That was what I planned to be my showstopper, my grand magnum opus, and I'm going to have to wait till next year. Because I didn't. I know I could have gotten it painted, but it wouldn't have been what I expected it to be and what I intend for it to be. So on the bright side, I get to go to Monte, see what everyone's doing, see all of these other pieces in the reel, and really see how I can compare and what I still need to work on and what I can do to really push it and make that piece what I want it to be. So,
and more importantly, mate, you get to eat your body weight in pizza in Italy as well. So
I know, right? I love some Italian food.
Yeah, not American Italian, actual,
like real Italian. I cannot wait. Actually, so it turns out my wife's got some family in Italy that I think we're going to try to visit too.
Oh, awesome, man.
Yeah, and then I'll drink my body weight in beer when I come up there with you guys, right?
So yeah, the plan is trip to Monte and then come over to jolly old England, little Warhammer World trip, and then the workshop. So Yeah. Henry, do you want to roll the old outro?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I'll just roll that BT right now and click these buttons here. No, that was lovely. Thanks ever so much for chatting through all that. Well, that was really interesting, and it's definitely going to be fun following you. I think, something we're trying to do is expose painters to miniatures painting fans, right? And we started it with covering the shows this year. We're going to be covering all the shows, including Monty, and then all the shows next year. And what I really hope is that people start to get their sort of, I'd really love to go into this show so I can see so and so's work, and I'm not just peers, not just Andy wanting to go out so he can see, so and so's work, and vice versa. This is where we can get fans going to shows because they know certain pieces are going to be there to see and stuff. And I think that's something exciting. And I think when you've got someone who can talk as well as Will and as eloquently as Will, it only helps, right? So yeah, that was really, really fun.
I'm happy I didn't sound like a dumb redneck.
No, don't worry, you're fine. We set the bar pretty low, so don't worry.
I mean, I'm here, mate, so you're never going to sound that.
Yeah.
So, Rich is the equivalent of a redneck.
Henry, what you were saying, I totally agree. And to get more people into this sort of painting only benefits miniature painting as a whole. Because the better and better more people come in, the better people will get, the more the community gets pushed to do new things, to do more compelling things. And it makes all of us work a little bit harder in a positive way.
Too right.
Absolutely. I generally do feel we're sort of at the beginning, which is, it's going to be an exciting few years. Absolutely. So let's close out the show as usual, taking a look at hashtag PaintCultists. So hashtag PaintCultists, we've got 16,000 something now on Instagram with this hashtag.
Nice.
The idea is go and follow it, and you'll open yourself up to a bunch of accounts that you may never have followed before. They might have different sorts of miniatures, what you'd normally follow, a different painting style that you'd follow, or whatever. And it's just a really lovely way to scroll. It's about the only thing I do on Instagram now for pleasure, right? That isn't having to do work things. So yeah, it's a fun one to follow. It might be on other platforms, but I don't think anyone gives a fuck. It's on Instagram. That's the one we're actually doing it. And what we'll do is every couple of weeks, I'll go on, grab a handful that just jump out to me. Don't necessarily think that they're the best or whatever. They jump out to me, and we have a little natter about them. And inevitably, I forget everything that I wanted to say about them because I don't write the notes down. And hopefully, Matt's scribbled something down for me. But what's come up first? But I think there's quite a few this week, isn't there?
There's 7.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So this is not something I typically would go out looking for. There was something to do with Star Trek, I remember.
It's a trill, isn't it?
That's it. There you go. He said the account was like, I've called this piece trill or whatever because I was inspired by that thing from Star Trek. Now, I have no idea what that means.
It's got a bug in her stomach.
Right. But it's really cool. And actually, it's a lovely set of photos, this one. Just a triptych, really, of the piece. And it's just a cracker. It really, really is. And when you see a model that you reckon someone's had fun doing it, there was no, sometimes you get a little bit of, I don't think false modesty is the right word, but sometimes people will open their comments, their description of the piece almost apologetically, right? There's something they don't like about it, so they start to play it down. They downplay the piece for whatever reason. But there was none of that. This was just sort of like, I did this piece, I wanted to try something different, was inspired by this, and it looks rad, and it does. Very, very cool. No idea on the manufacturer or anything like that. I'm sorry, I'm terrible, but it's bound to be there. Go and follow the account. There's a ton of great stuff on this account, actually. There was a few with the hashtag that I was going to pick, and they were all this account. So I was like, oh no, you're only having one. So there you go.
I didn't mention the manufacturer, so not too sure.
I could, of course, just go on Instagram, couldn't I? That would help. and hashtag
no, mate, you carry on doing what you're doing.
Steam's already coming out my ears trying to work YouTube. So, all right, what we got up next, Matt? Oh,
That's so cool.
amazing piece. In fact, now I've seen that name, that person in the chat, have I seen meandering something in the chat? Yes, I have. Yeah, meandering shades in the chat. Well, hopefully they can talk a little bit more about it. But this is I think this is a collaborative project. So this person has taken this crane cab, made this lovely grimdark, underhive servitor crane cab, and then they're sending it off to a friend who is actually putting it inside a much larger piece of scenery, a crane, obviously. And I think it's automated, so it'll be on the table and it'll work and,
that's cool.
and all the rest of it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Awesome.
In the chat, but yeah, it's I absolutely love collaborative projects between friends. Like, it's just, I think sometimes we get a bit too serious with this hobby.
What are you talking about?
It's always
now
nice
I get to see it.
Nice to remember. It's fun, right? Yeah. Now we'll get.
Now I get to see it. That is great. I absolutely love that.
But a really brilliant set of whips as well for this piece too.
Oh, that's so cool.
Very cool.
I love the weathering.
I'm definitely going to go check that one out.
Right up my street, this one.
I love seeing that, like, just the kit bashing, the grimdark, and as I mentioned, like, I don't do a lot of that. So whenever I can see somebody else's creative process as far as putting something like that together, it's just so insightful and so interesting. That's awesome. Way to go, dude.
And the fact it's for a gaming table, I
Love it.
Hey, I've got some gaming table stuff that needs some paint on it, man. You want to?
That's how we do it. Right, what's up on the next one? So, this was cool. So back to Lord of the Rings. Oh, I forget the name of this one, but it's obviously it's an orc captain.
Captain, I can't remember his name.
I just love the skin color. I love seeing orcs in a different skin.
Did I get you, Rich?
Yeah, that got me well done.
Sorry, boys.
Sorry.
That was brilliant.
It's Mirkwood Orc General. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
But there we go. Yeah, relatively recent sculpt, I think.
It's really good.
GW stuff. But yeah, just love seeing orcs with different, not green skin.
We've got an orange one tutorial coming to Cultists Paint soon, mate. There you go.
Yes, that's true.
I'm all about the plug-in today.
There you go, dude.
But as you know, we've mentioned Lord of the Rings already, haven't we? And obviously Andy's painting Elrond at the minute. It's a really nice range of minis, to go and have a little palette cleanse with, I think.
The new generation the new wave of modern sculpt is amazing now. I think when it's that small, it can't be ropey, in my opinion. It's got to be crisp, and I'm blown away by that.
If they do like Rings of Power orcs in new miniatures, then I'm sold. I'm all in.
They said they weren't,
the big light. Are they not?
No.
Haven't got the license.
That's bullshit.
It is.
I want an orc with a cow skull on its head.
Make your own.
Have they definitely not got the license?
No, they don't.
We're sure about that?
Tolkien Estate's a bit grabby with it these days.
Kit bash from your own. You can do anything you want. Whatever you want, you can make it.
True.
The only thing with the new orcs is, in what was it, Logan? The film Logan, you have what's his name? The guy that Ricky Gervais usually hang around with.
Stephen Merchant.
Steve Merchant.
The orcs kind of look like him in that film.
Stephen Merchant always reminds me of that sloth thing out of Ice Age, but I don't know.
Sid.
He looks like the guy from Pan's Labyrinth that does that with his eyes. That's what Stephen Merchant looks like.
But none of this has anything to do with this lovely painted orc miniature. So yeah, good on you on the account. Time of the orc as well. That's it. Strong theme. I hope everything on this account.
Good quote as well.
It is. It's still Orktober, right? It's still Orktober.
That's true.
Yes.
Has anyone been doing anything for that particularly?
I got a Groktober.
You actually have.
Yeah.
I actually have.
I haven't. Fucking hell.
Really?
We all paint a tank green, Rich. That's pretty close.
That's true.
I feel terrible that I haven't done anything for Orktober in too long, but I got a couple miles to finish with the Monty trip looming.
Yeah,
that's all right.
We should do
smash it out.
We should all do like a hobby challenge at some point and all paint something for like October. Or
Andy was saying the other day how keen he was to really celebrate Christmas this year, and perhaps we paint some festive style miniatures.
I thought you were talking about something serious.
So what's the next slide, Matt?
Next up is
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh, this gets me moist. So,
dude, this is so hard. I see all of you guys like, oh, this is so great, and I'm like, okay, I gotta wait 2 more minutes at the speed of chat to see what everyone's talking about.
Tomb King.
It's just lovely. It's a backdrop. It's Warhammer the Old World. It's really lovely colours.
Screams Kapinski.
Typically, you see, it does. It really evokes a lot of the artwork. It's just
God,
lovely.
Henry, now you're making me moist.
It's just really lovely.
Talk about it.
And I haven't watched it today, but I saw Pete the Wargamers. I like the thumbs Pete does, where it's like the model as is, and then he converts it, but he blurs out what he's converted it to. I haven't clicked on it yet, so I don't know what it ends up looking like. But he's converted one of the
clickbait
new,
down to
what are they called? What's the little board game you like? Underworlds.
Oh yeah.
He's converted one of the new skeletons from that into a Tomb King. So I'm looking forward to going.
Pete, I'm watching that.
That's a
tomorrow.
Great idea.
But that's Pete, and this is not Pete, and is still an awesome. And speaking of old models, I mean, this is 20. Got to be.
We need to do I think we need to do an old world episode because we're discussing it all the time.
Oh, mate.
They've shown
Tomb Kings. We could do a year of old world episodes.
They've done a Tomb Kings art. They've done a Bretonian art, and there's two camps. Is it we're getting new models? People are getting excited, and then people going, "Nah, it's just the old stuff again with a book."
Well, you speak about getting in. Will was saying earlier about fifth edition fantasy. Today, me and Ben, our commissions manager, we were texting each other photos of our Bretonians. And comparing them.
So that word for something else.
Yeah.
So I can see the model now.
Watch this space for some old hammer or middle hammer action. Right. What I think there's a couple more, isn't there, Matt?
There are.
Love the palette model. So I can finally see.
You're too late, Will. Sorry, mate. We're on to the next
one. Just had to throw that little 2 cents in. Fantastic job on the palette. That's awesome.
But it is cool, isn't it? It's unusual, right? Like
it's amazing.
It's
great ambiance, and I love seeing ambiance. And you just totally nailed it on that one.
It's the orange in the stairs and the blade, and just major chef's kiss.
Yum yum yum.
And the color choice and the color control on the yellow is fantastic. Moving it slightly in that colder range of yellow, it's got a little bit more green content, which works perfectly to make that basically analogous scheme pop.
Save it for your workshop, Will. All the people.
I just want to give them a little taste. See, I'm talking about it, which is good because then when they're there, they're going to have to do it. I'm going to walk through all this stuff, guys. Easy.
Apparently, Pete's done all 5 of them. It's not just the one.
What?
Of course he has. The man's a machine.
I'm watching that as soon as we're done on this.
Okay, Matt, what is up next?
Argyle Tower.
Yum. Argyle Tower.
Had to be a Space Marine at some point.
Oh, I think there might even be another one after this.
It's 2 Space Marines, Recondo.
It's
got a dead one.
Just
1.5.
It's just a nice piece. I think this model dropped during COVID and all the rest of it, and therefore I think it suffered
Forgotten about it.
We did, exactly right. We didn't necessarily see it. It's a very famous character, obviously, from the Heresy series. I've got him. He's massive, and he fits really, really nicely with the new plastic Possessed, which I am a huge fan of as well. So
the muted red is fantastic.
It's just lovely, right? It's just got
very classy.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. It's just like I would be very happy if I had an army looking like this.
Grimdark Heresy proper, right?
It's got it's grimdark. To me, it's grimdark. I think you get a lot of people argue it's not because it hasn't been dipped in a bucket of fucking streak and grime and, you know, taken with a bad photo. But that doesn't necessarily mean something's grimdark. This, I think, evokes that right feel, doesn't it?
I think that it does too, and it does. As I think, as Andy said, it's very classic. It's got a very classic feel to it, the way that it's painted with the muted tones. I love it.
It's great.
Nice, isn't it? Nice. And is there one more?
Two more.
This. Please go and look at the other photos of this model because it just gets better and better. There's tons of angles. The account did it for Golden Demon, so it was there this year, just gone. But I love this model, like properly love this model. And this, I know it was AOS, but this to me is just perfection, old world, like vampire stuff. But again, you know, the undead range. I think GW are phenomenal at undead stuff. I love what they do anyway with it. But I'm a really big fan of when limbs blend out into a completely different color at the end. I don't know why. I did it for the first time on some Hoggrots a year or so ago, and I loved doing it then. And I just love how it looks. And this model, it's just.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Now I can see it.
Right.
No, but I love doing the same thing. I did a Tyranid kill team a little ways back that did the same type of thing. And it's just a fun technique to do. It adds a lot of you know, personality.
Well, it was Rich's dank hold Trogoth that inspired me to do it. We won't have a picture of that, but Rich did it with where the arms bled out into this lovely blue color, sort of teal color. And just ever since I saw that, I was like, I'm going to do that to a lot of models whenever it's appropriate. But I wouldn't have thought to do it on this model. I could totally see if you did it where you went almost like necrotic, you know, ends and stuff, frostbitten, all those things like that, but not like this. So yeah, just I wish I could have seen this. I wish I could have seen many of the pieces there, but wish I could have seen this. So.
I think, like, as far as a lot of organic models, anything that could have that creepy vibe to it, that's something that you can use. You know, so I mean, it works great on like undead, Tyranids, orcs, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Depending on the choices that you make, it can really be great. And I think he nailed it. I love like the standard flesh tone with that, you know, that dark blue blend out. It's just it works really well.
That's it as well, isn't it? Is when you have it with that sort of pinky flesh tone or pale flesh tone, it immediately becomes not human, right? Very clearly not human.
Yes.
But because you give it that pinky flesh color, it looks like a lot of humans, but a bit weird.
Exactly.
So yeah, big fan. So you said there was one more?
One more.
Oh, and speaking of different colors, this account had posted a few. So they've done up a few chaos things. I can't remember when I've seen a chaos model done in like a bright yellow. Loved it. I thought it was really cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge chaos fan anyway, so it doesn't take much to make me happy with it. But yeah, I was just thinking, like, juxtaposition isn't the right word, but you know what I'm getting at. When you see something that's really not in a scheme that is typically associated with it.
What's this painting meta, isn't it? Everyone just does the same stuff. Like chaos have to have metallic trim, but as soon as the trim is black and then a coloured armor, like red Corsairs with the black trim, then I'm all over the chaos. Yeah. And all that trim looks way better in just like black or something like that. I think it's super cool.
I think so. And again, like, yeah, if we'd seen this perhaps in a green that's similar to this, again, it would probably have had a similar impact, right? Because you just don't see it.
No.
Hell yeah. Yellow chaos.
It looks chaotic, doesn't it? You know, it looks discordant. It's just cool.
Well, I guess you see Iron Warriors when people go over the top with their hazards, but
I think that's the thing, right? And often that's a very orangey yellow, isn't it? When people do that, whereas this isn't, right? This is just quite stark,
cold yellow.
Yeah, it's just
very cold.
just really cool. And I bet this would look fantastic, like on a table. Like
love to play against that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But really cool.
I totally agree.
So,
yeah.
Sorry, guys, I've got a real tickly throat.
I'm into 40k at the moment. Not in spite of Games Workshop and what they're doing with it. I've got back into it, all right? But it's nothing to do with what Games Workshop are doing with 40k right now. But I still like it again.
So, funnily enough, I'm with you on that. I actually I had recently been tinkering with some Sons of Medusa, and yeah. So I finally, after I don't know how many years, because I've always loved them, always wanted to have something. I did a kill team first, and then added a couple things. So there's a small force sitting over there, and as I started doing it, I did the very, very bright, vibrant green, very poppy green, because I enjoy painting poppy colors like that. And I started doing black trim. So looking at this reminds me of them as well. And that a similar sort of vibe, and it's super cool. So yeah, I'm totally on board with this.
Kill team is a gateway drug to collecting new armies.
Good.
I'm skipping it. I know. Mate. Give me the drugs.
Well, see, that's the reason that I like Kill Team and I still play it is because it doesn't require the same time investment for me that painting 2,000 points of something, 100%. And you have the opportunity of putting that extra care into your Kill Team without feeling like, oh my god, it's going to take me 5 years to get this army done.
It's not daunting at all, is it? It's like very achievable. If you have an itch, you can scratch it. You can spend a few weeks on something and go, cool, I've done that now. And you get to use it for something as well. So, yeah.
Is that what you tell yourself?
Hey, we did a whole episode on Rich's.
Yeah.
How to play Kill Team and lie to yourself, I think was what we did, wasn't it?
Basically, yeah.
It's fantastic. Right.
I love. I'm sorry, Henry.
No.
Go off on another tangent.
Tangent
over
off.
here.
Go for it.
So yeah, I'm excited because we have it'll be the second year of the event. It's called Kill Team Open. It's another event here in Baltimore. That will it's a whole event that's just Kill Team. There's painting classes. The narrative event, it's a full 2 days that runs alongside with the GT. So I had to make sure that I had that there's Kill Team set up and ready to go for that weekend, and that'll be in February. For any of the U.S. guys that are listening, or if you want to come across the pond, it's right here in Baltimore. It's literally 10 minutes from my house. That makes it even better for me.
Get some crab cakes.
Crab play Kill Team, eh?
Eat crab, play Kill Team. And there's an after dark event. The after dark event they do with like the black lights and everything, and it's
cool.
It's more narrative, and everyone hangs out and just gets drunk. I think last year I didn't play against a sober person, and it was just an absolute blast.
So it's beer, Kill Team, and food.
Yeah,
crabs, mate.
Wow, that sounds great. I want to come.
Come hang out, man.
That'd be great.
I think a little visit to some skirmish stuff again on an episode is long overdue, because I really enjoyed listening to that Kill Team one when we did it, because it is a cop out. Just say, I haven't got paid that much, but actually taking away that, we talk about it as mates, this idea of you get excited about doing an army project and then you get intimidated to the point of not starting, right? And actually Kill Team's perfect for that, isn't it, of taking that initial, because who knows, if it ends up as an army, great, but at least at least you get some paint down, right? At least you don't talk yourself out of it before you've even painted a model. But that is a proper tangent, and we're not going down it. Which is still
next time.
On it. Exactly. If you've enjoyed the episode and you want to get in touch with us, let us know, and suggestions for future episodes, guests, all the rest of it. We're on all the usual social medias, email, all the rest of it, Cult of Paint. So please feel free to reach out, as well as the Discord channel, which seems to be going great guns now. We've sorted out all the teething problems with that. So jump in there if Discord's your thing as well. If you're watching this back, the usual shtick, like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of thing. But Will, thank you ever so much for coming on and chatting. It's been a real pleasure. Really enjoyed listening to it.
Guys, thanks for having me, dude. It was an absolute blast.
Welcome back anytime. So yeah, hopefully we'll catch up with you when we're out in Monty, and then maybe a little chat afterwards for your first European experience. And actually, you never know, we might just pop along to your class with a camera and annoy you for a bit as well. That could be a could be a giggle.
You guys are all welcome.
Well, there we go. Lovely jubbly.
Yeah.
Matt, Andy,
and
Rich,
beers in Nottingham. Don't forget beers.
And in some very old pubs as well.
Yes. I can't wait.
It's going to be good. And the chat, obviously, you're awesome. Thanks for all the great questions. And again, nice to see some new names is there as well as the familiar ones along. So we will see you in 2 weeks for the next show. Thanks a lot, chaps. Thanks a lot, chat. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.